will now come back to Earth. What the telescope receives the fact? Well, here's an article. The Aussie Beverly Telescope Index by Chris West.
I set off this morning from El Paso in the far southwest of Texas, driving alongside the Mexican border. The road is on a gentle incline because my final destination is the Davies Mountain Range, which is 10,000 feet, offers some of the darkest skies anywhere in the continental United States. The McDonald Observatory has been perched on top of Mount Rock and Mount Full for the past 76 years, and is now run by the University of Texas. Astronomers agree we always want bigger telescopes to give us more light so we can see fainter objects. The silver dome behind me contains a telescope that's not only large, but also rather special. The design of the Hobby Everly telescope, which was completed in 1997, is revolutionary. It's still the third largest astronomical mirror in the world, but it was built at a fraction of the cost of a normal telescope of this size, and the reason is its mount.
The telescope was designed from the very beginning to have a structure containing the optics so it's fixed at an angle, in this case, of 35 degrees.
So this mirror always stays at this angle.
It always stays at this angle. That was a cost saving. We saved probably 80% of the cost of making the same size telescope fully steerable.
You don't need this huge mount.
We don't need a huge mount. We don't need the emotion, the engineering. The cost, of course, is that we only can ever observe objects that are in a ring 35 degrees off the vertical. That ring, because of the motion of the tracker, has a width which is about plus or minus 8 degrees. So over the course of a year, 70% of the sky passes through the ring.
How long can you observe a single object for?
That depends on where the telescope is pointing. If we're looking due south, it's about 45 minutes. If we're looking due north, it approaches 2 to 3 hours.
The other beautiful tweak to the telescope design is in the way it rotates.
The telescope, during an observation, is resting on 4 of these feet, which are resting on this concrete pillar. After an observation, we want to point to a different point, north, south, east, and west. So the telescope 100-ton structure, as you can see, is getting now an inch off this concrete, and supported by 8 of these airbags, 20 pounds per square inch.
Wow.
Like a little hovercraft. In fact, if you put your hand here, you can feel the air coming out.
You really can.
So the telescope during the night is operated by the telescope operator from the control room, moves round this concrete pillar. The computer tells the telescope structure when it's at the right compass point or azimuth, and then the air is cut off, and the telescope comes back down.
The telescope specializes not in taking images, but in using an instrument called a spectrograph. This splits the light from objects into their constituent colors, telling us what stars and other objects are made of. David took me to the observatory's new visitor center, which uses light from the sun to explain exactly what the spectrograph does.
We're producing an image of the sun, and the image is projected from a telescope on the roof of a building. From the image of the sun, the slot of light is fed back to what we call a diffraction grating. Think of it as a prism. It spreads the light out into a spectrum of rainbow of colors, and that's what you see projected.
And as well as the rainbows, from violet through to red, I can see dark lines.
That's very important. Yes, we call those Fraunhofer lines or absorption lines, and they are produced by atoms of different chemical elements in the atmosphere of the sun absorbing some of the light. So from those lines, we can trace out which elements are present and which are not, and determine also the amount of those elements, things like temperature and pressure and the velocity flows in the atmosphere of the sun.
I've been to many observatories around the world, but I've never seen anything quite like the Hobby Everly telescope. It may only be able to see a fraction of the sky, but the ingenuity of its design is hard to beat.
And that's because of this next answer is to work back to where that right here. Where is the future now? Well, the future does indeed lie with segmented mirror telescopes. There are 3 groups now planning larger telescopes than the Hobby Everly and the Keck telescope. Tech, the University of California, Canada, and Japan. And the segments themselves, there will be 490 of them. So a telescope of that aperture is really very, very powerful, and one of the driving forces is to study galaxies at the very edge of the universe, perhaps the first generation of galaxies to switch on when the universe is only 3 or 4% of its present age. What about the atmosphere? Of course, we have to get rid of the atmosphere because it blurs the signal. Fortunately, adaptive optics has made tremendous progress over the last 10 years. So the other telescopes are the European extremely large telescope. This is a 42-meter telescope, and that is really a balance between, obviously, the amount of money that ESO thinks it can raise for a telescope of this aperture, and, of course, the desire to have even better performance than the 30-meter telescope. And then the final project, which is quite exciting, is the Giant Magellan Telescope. So it's an exciting time, driven, of course, by fundamental scientific questions, such as imaging extrasolar planets, looking at the earliest objects in the universe, and, of course, studying cosmology and dark matter, and the fundamental questions of the origin of life and the nature of the universe that we live in.
Well, Richard, why the quest?
It never ends, Patrick. George L. Lee Hale once said, light is falling on the earth from all over the sky, and all we can do is collect the bit that lands on 100 inches across. He was driven to build bigger and bigger telescopes to learn more about the universe. The question never ends, and the technology enables us to do it. It's a very exciting future.
Richard, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We began the series way back in April 1957, and look how much has happened since then.
Besides all the electronics, visual photography is still used for some branches of research. David Mason, who came to Sighting Space as a photographer, spends his observing time in a cave in the Pine Coast.
The official name of the observatory is El Observatorio del Roque de los Pistachios. As I say, my Spanish accent is pretty good, but here are Los Pistachios, the two boys. I'm sure there is a local list without them, but no one seems to know what it is. We're observed out here, but it sounds like there's look, we're sunshine will break over there, isn't it? I can't see anything in it, though. This very neat invisible window contains a 10-inch reflecting telescope. And just to make sure that we all know where we are, we've actually lost you with one of them. The Royal Greenwich Observatory gave it to me in order to pinpoint my position as I sit in the observation. You find out the dome in its turn. Yes, once you get it going, Patrick, it's quite easy. Look here, see? Just hit touch. Yes? That's pretty easy. There's no difficulty there. Of course, you won't see these are looking large, because no telescope yet built will show a star. What's like to be gone? Oh, no. Just as I got it on the crosswires, it's black right now. How absolutely typical. There's nothing to do with that. Sorry if I'm like anything else. If I can give as much or as little time to what else I want to do. It will still get a tremendous amount of enjoyment, and it can be useful work as well, not so much the better. Good night. Good night. Good night. And so, from Brighton, where the sky is now completely overcast, good night. Good night. Well, I think you'll agree, it's a wonderful story. We've had so far in the last 400 years, from the tiny sinister of January time to the huge sinister now, which look back into the depths of the universe. It's a story well worth living. I even enjoy our look back at the